And the last line. Alright, Kaede Kazuha, the Genshin Impact Yasuo. For those who are insane, will say he can't sustain, but when you see his hurricane inside of his domain, that'll just prove that they don't have a brain. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool! Alright, story time. So Kazuha was born into this family of nobles. He wasn't fond of his position in nobility, and interesting enough, all of his clan's fortune went down the toilet and Kazuha had nothing left. But he took this opportunity to get out of the house, to roam the mountains and connect with nature, or whatever. But then the Shogun just pulled a fuck your freedom card and tried to hunt him down for his vision. Alright, let's start off with elemental abilities. Elemental skill. Kazuha flies up and Kirby's nearby enemies, dealing AoE animo damage. Then for 10 seconds, Kazuha's plunge damage will be converted to animo damage. After Kazuha's plunge, he'll create a smaller Kirby that sucks up enemies. There's a press version and a hold version. The only difference is that the hold version is more powerful and has a longer cooldown. Elemental burst. Domain expansion. Kazuha slashes once with animo damage with this badass angle, and then creates a domain that deals AoE animo damage at set intervals. This domain is also able to absorb elements, causing elemental damage to enemies. Moving on to passive talents. Triggering Swirl Reaction will grant teammates a 0.04% elemental damage bonus for every elemental mastery point Kazuha possesses for 8 seconds. So, for example, if your Kazuha has 900 elemental mastery, then 36% elemental damage bonus will be applied for your teammates, which is pretty nice. Passive 2, when Kazuha's Huriketon comes into contact with elements, elemental absorption will occur and deal 200% of that elemental type. Passive 3, decreases sprinting stamina consumption by 20%. So the same as Razor and Kaya. Nice. Moving on to Constellations. Constellation 1 decreases Huriketon cooldown by 10% and resets fully when you use his domain expansion. Constellation 2 increases your elemental mastery by 200 when you're in your domain. Constellation 3, Huriketon is stronger. Constellation 4, when Kazuha uses his Huriketon, he regenerates energy. Also regenerates energy, and listen to this, when gliding. Constellation 5, domain expansion is stronger. Constellation 6, Kazuha gains animo infusion after using his elemental abilities. Also, each point of his elemental mastery will now raise his damage by 0.2%. Well, that's another well constellation if you ask me. Moving on to artifacts. Alright, as you guys can tell from me reading his abilities for the last few minutes, Kazu's abilities are based on elemental mastery since the man loves reactions. So naturally, it'd be nice if you invest in some. Personally, I just use him like this. I don't know if I should call this a support or a sub DPS, because no matter what I put in him, he does big damage anyways. So I'm going to recommend two different builds. One is full elemental mastery and the other one is full elemental mastery but with animo damage bonus goblet. For me, both kind of work incredibly fine. Although the P sets are different, if you're going to use Viridescent anyways, might as well just add some animo damage bonus because it works just fine. For substats, you don't really need godlike stats, which is so nice considering the shitty ass resin system, but I think some crit rate and crit damage may work out with some of your animo damage or plunge damage. damage. I think prioritizing energy recharge isn't a bad idea either, so choose what you prefer. For piece sets, for beginners, Instructor's 4-piece is probably the best choice for you, or 2-piece Instructors and 2-piece Exiles might be a decent choice if you're having trouble with energy recharge. For endgame, 4-piece Viridescent is the most optimal choice since he'll be doing big damage. If the game shafts you like they do every day, which is honestly isn't surprising, then 2-piece Viridescent and 2-piece Wanderers is fine as well. Alright, story time 2. Before the Vision Hunt decree, Kazuha was roaming around with a friend who is remained nameless because they didn't tell us. They were good friends but parted away later on due to their difference in their goals. When the Vision Hunt began, the friend had the balls to challenge the literal god of Electro to a duel for the position of Shogun. When Kazuha heard this big news, he rushed his way to the city only to see that his friend was defeated and his vision now an empty husk. Meaning he probably died, yeah. Now for weapons, starting with 5 stars. New perfect sword for Kazuha that doesn't fit his design. The best weapon choice for Kazuha, I would say. Elemental Mastery and high base attack stat. Abilities that were kind of made for him, and if you guys are too lazy reading the abilities because it's so long for no fucking reason, basically every time he does reactions, he buffs himself. Aquila. Now this is probably a sword that you'll use when you're trying to build a hybrid, and I'm not gonna do that, so yeah. You can decide that yourself. Primordial Jade Cutter, another amazing weapon, but if you're building Elemental Mastery on our boy Kazuha here, it probably won't work out that much since sword reactions won't crit, but it will probably benefit your plunge attack and your animal damage. Summon Shaper, you need a shield unit, but that's really not a problem. It doesn't necessarily have to be a geo unit either, so it's pretty nice. Skyward Blade, the burst spam sword. This will work very nicely if you have no energy recharge. Moving on to 4 stars, Lion's Roar. Stat-wise, it's a great sword, but the ability will require a Pyro or a Electro unit in your team, which isn't really a big problem. Royal, Timmy of all weapons, that's probably better to use with a higher refinement rank, but it's understandable if you don't have it to refinement rank 3 because you're not all a whale, and I wouldn't really expect you to buy this, so anyways. Sacrificial can work, but not necessary. Festering Desire, a safe choice for your Kazuha. Blackcliff, again, Elemental Mastery can't crit, but if you're building Kazuha as an animal damage bonus, then this can work, I guess. Credit Card Sword, again, same as Blackcliff for animal damage bonus. For free to play, Iron Sting is the only 4-star sword with Elemental Mastery, and this is probably the weapon that I would recommend to most of you who are building Elemental Mastery on Kazuha. Prototype, same as Aquila, you're probably not going to build physical though, so you're not going to build physical, right? For teams, this man literally reacts with every unit in the game, which makes team comps super easy for Genshin Yasuo. Although, I guess using Geo units won't benefit you that much since animal units cannot react with Geo and create sandstorm reactions or some cool shit like that. But honestly, most animal units are like a mixer, so all you gotta do is push it in there and you're probably gonna do fine. If I do recommend some units though, I definitely recommend Bennett and Fischl. Bennett does boost your attack and it's incredibly useful, and of course our lovely Chunibyo Fischl does apply Electro very easily with the coolest pet in Genshin Impact, unlike some other crap nugget. If you do need a battery, any animal unit will do fine, although I would heavily recommend Sucrose because she shares Elemental Mastery and her low height CC definitely helps with plunge attacks. You can also use other elements if you do want to do that. Try it yourself and see what you like the most. So how the fuck do you play Kazuha? At first his mechanic may be a bit confusing, but if you play him a couple of times it's pretty easy and really fun. So usually I use other characters to apply elements and buffs, then move on to Kazu's burst, and then use his elemental skill to Kirby the enemies into the domain expansion, then plunge attack them. At that point, you may not see the numbers because you're jumping around and whatnot, but most of your enemies are likely dead and your energy should be full. Also, some tips I guess. Number 1, rotate often, because most likely you're going to hold his elemental skill, which means you're still going to need some energy recharge, which leads to number 2, if you do happen to stack some elemental mastery on Kazuha, remember that his passive increases allies' elemental damage, so bring other DPS into the team who focuses on elemental damage since you'll buff them. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye. Oh, Bobby.